You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org. This episode of Pizza Quest is brought to you by Central Milling, hand-selected grain, expertly milled for passionate bakers. Central Milling is the farmer, the miller, and the baker working together to preserve American farmland for tomorrow while providing the highest quality flour and grains for the bakers of today. Dating back over 150 years, Central Milling is built on generations of knowledge, and they know that premium flour starts at the source. Employee-owned, Central Milling works directly with their farmers to sustainably grow grains that have exceptional flavor, nutrient content, color, and baking performance, which results in one of the largest selections of premium specialty flour and grains in the country. Hand-selected for the highest baking qualities, milled, cracked, or blended slowly to minimize heat generation, then bake-tested for performance. Learn more about Central Milling and their products at centralmilling.com.
I'm Peter Reinhardt. Welcome to Pizza Quest. We're coming to you today from the International Pizza Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada, the 2024 version. And I'm sitting with two people whose names you may recognize, but you may not know them. And the name that you'll recognize is Caputo, because almost everybody knows now about Caputo flour, which was not always the case in the United States. So we want to talk a little bit about how you guys were able to bring your brand, into a very competitive market in the United States and suddenly become a household name. I'm sitting with Antimo Caputo, who is, what were you?
CEO.
CEO of Caputo Flour, the part of the third generation maybe now of the Caputos. And then we're with Mauro Caputo, who is the master miller. And you're like the next generation down, right? So you're keeping it going. And so let me just start with Antimo quickly. If you wouldn't mind helping people understand what it is about Caputo flour. We think of, people ask all the time, the question I get a lot is, what is 00 flour? And
Zero.
And that's not the only thing that you do is 00 flour.
No, we produce a lot of flour. 00 means that is an Italian law that give us, the ash content. So finally means that is a white flour. That's it. But nothing special. In Italy, everybody produce 00, everybody produces 0. So it's only a naming of a product.
What is the difference between the 00 and 0? What is
the difference? Is the ash content.
Mean?
The kernel of the wheat is the external part of the kernel is brown, and when we mill the wheat, we separate the brown from the heart of the kernel, and sometimes some part stay inside the flour, and so it's more dark.
Is it finer? Is it really
finer? Yes.
You can feel the finer difference. So we're going to pass this question also to our master miller, Mauro. But before we do, maybe talk a little bit about how you brought this family milling business and flour to America and the challenges that you've had to face to kind of get over the misconceptions about what you are and how to use it.
Yes, the funny story is that we are reverse immigrant, because our grandfather, whose name was Carmine Caputo, there were two brothers, Carmine and Pasquale. They came back from the other states and they got married with two sisters, and they opened the mill Caputo in Capua, because our origin is from Capua, right near Naples.
In Capua, yeah.
But in 1924, Carmine Caputo passed away, and the company was run by our grandfather Antimo Caputo, with which I have the name.
Named after, yeah.
And that's why the story starts with Antimo Caputo, that came to Naples and buy his own mill, because he separated from the family. He buy his own mill, and from there, we became specialists for artisan, high quality pizza maker, pastry chef, and whatever it is of the Italian culture. The wonderful story is that 30 years ago, they come, Fred and Carlo, to our company and spoke with my father to say, we would like to buy a container of flour. But my father said, but the United States is the country of the wheat. Why do you need my flour?
Yes.
Because your flour is special for some specific crazy pizza maker, and they want it. Okay, if you pay me, you can do what you want.
These are the people
container.
from Orlando Foods
yes,
that
Orlando
came over.
Food.
Yeah,
Fred and Carlo from
and so
Orlando
they recognize,
Food.
because they specialize in bringing authentic Italian products over.
Yeah, it's from that we understand that something was changing in the world, that people really love to recognize more identity product, more specific product, and from that we grow very, very well in the market, and we understand that people like to understand what there is behind a bag of flour. And we have the story, we have the knowledge, we have the knowledge in the wheat, we have the knowledge in the recipe of the chef. So we put together this thing and we develop a wonderful market here, because finally the customer, the chefs love this quality.
Yeah, so before you were able to bring it successfully to the United States, you have a lot of competition right in Italy. You're not the only flour mill. And
yes.
When people say Italian flour, their minds automatically go to Caputo. But really, there are many brands of flour. So how did you manage to kind of rise above and compete against them?
Number one, to be 100% specialized. You have to know that we produce only for high quality artisan. We don't produce for big industry. We don't produce for private label. Zero. We are fully specialized only for the artisan of the food, like pastry, as we told you.
You're not
before.
going for volume, you're going for quality.
No, we always look for quality, and we put together the knowledge, the selection of the wheat. Our flour is only natural, inside there is nothing. Good wheat, and it's a low milling process. So we put all this thing together, and we are competitive because we compete in the most competitive market of the world for the quality, which is Italy and Napoli, you can imagine. So we try to explain people what we do different, and the milling process, the wheat we use, and the way we prepare everything, and finally people recognize us as like something special.
So then of course, as the Orlando folks realized, there's an opportunity here to bring this flour to the States. There was a hunger for true Neapolitan pizza,
yes.
And they kind of made the bridge for you, and the rest is history, really, because now you've got make a huge presence here at the expos. Everybody knows the brand. It's one of the hardest parts is getting your brand established, and everybody knows it now. And you put on great parties. The Caputo event every year at the expos is a must-have ticket, that everybody wants to go to. So I want to thank you for that. The Caputo Cup, which is a pizza competition that you sponsor and host.
Yeah, we believe a lot that the competition is a way for people to open the mind and try to understand how the recipe, or explain the recipe, because today it's common to say the recipe of pizza, but 20 years ago was a secret. You remember? Every pizza maker has a secret. From the pizza competition, the Caputo Cup, from today, people have to say the recipe because to the judge. So finally we open, not yet the secret of the professional people, and everybody, the final consumer, understand that the artisanal pizza is something really high quality, and the job, the passion, and the hard job they put in making our pizza is very important. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's transition from that into a little bit more of the details about specifically about the flour and what makes it good. And how do people know? You've got a couple different types. You've got one in a blue bag, one in a red bag. You've got the Novella. There's all sorts of types of flour. How do people know how to use the flour for specific products? So I'm going to pass this on to Mauro, and as the master miller, you can kind of fill us in on how that works.
Yeah, we have different flours in our portfolio. Our main claim generally is the perfect flour, as well the perfect wheat, the perfect grain, doesn't really exist, but we have a correct flour, perfect flour, depending on the final use. So if you want to make focaccia or specific pizza napoletana, we have a flour designed appropriately for it. If you want to make bread, different types of bread, depending on the leavening time of the baking time, baking temperature, we have a flour for that. And then if we go over very most stressful processes like panettone, pandoro, croissant, and every kind concerning the patisserie. Every typology of dough is not just made up of water, flour, and yeast, but we have an addition of fats and other ingredients that may make an influence on the final recipe, on the baking process, on the leavening as well. We have specific flours for that. But what is important to understand, and once I have the recipe, then I can have the proper flour.
Right.
But behind the proper flour, there is not a proper wheat, but a specific blend of different varieties of wheat that we supply all around the world. Of course, starting from our fields, starting from our
You're kind of like a
territory.
winemaker who has to blend the juices from different grapes to make the perfect blend for a table wine.
Yeah, and this is a correct comparison.
Yeah.
But from my experience, because I'm not a wine specialist, but a wine drinker,
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
it. They generally use up to 2 or 3 grapes for each blend in average.
Right.
We go up to 7, 8,
Really?
sometimes even more varieties of wheat
And
for
do you
every
have to-
single flour we produce.
Because of weather and conditions, you have to every year adjust those blends.
That's the point, you got it. Because concerning referring to the weather, soils condition, agriculture techniques, and I will also add the social political situation nowadays.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
Crops may be changing year by year
That's right.
in every single area of the world.
Yeah.
And so people could actually think, okay, if the wheat changes, so the flour will be changing along the year? No, because by changing the different actors of every single wheat blend, we balance the final result in order to achieve the perfect consistency
Right.
of the product since years. So the consumer that use the blue bag pizzeria, blend from 20 years is actually recognizing the quality is keeping stable along the years due to this concept. You
Right.
blend the wheat.
So the consistency is so important.
Consistency is so much important.
So you don't want the pizza guy to have to adjust at the other end.
No.
He expects it to come ready to use.
No,
Yeah.
even though, as Antimo said, we go into a segment of market in which people are very pretending to quality, but
Yeah.
they also fight every day with ambient conditions, different recipes, different methods, different consumers' habits. So they, let's say, the consistency of the main ingredient must be a must.
Yeah, it has to. Consistency, key word. And then, well, you were talking about 7 different types of flour. Are all these flours, are these wheat that's grown in Italy, or do you bring wheat over from the United States or from Canada or other places?
We start very close to our plant in Napoli, in which we have hectares of fields that we manage from the seeding to the tillering to the flowering up to the harvest. And this is a lung of wheat, a reserve that we use for all our flowers to give a, let's say, a string of taste that is very characteristic, it's very autochthon, you know?
Well, what do you think it is about...
Let me close the context because it's important. But of course, if you consider that Italy, it's a very tiny peninsula with mountains in the middle,
Right.
We gotta go outside to get some other wheat, but not because of the volumes, just of the volumes, but also for the characteristics. So wheat crops that grow in northern Europe, France, Germany, Estonia, Poland, for example, because of the climatic condition, develop more protein. Protein is not everything, it's not the only parameter we need, but together combined with the Mediterranean wheat that we have in Italy, gives, I guess, the best balance in the quality for every single domestic use.
What do you think differentiates wheat grown in Italy in general and in the Mediterranean area from wheat grown in North America, like Canada and the United States?
Climatic conditions, of course, because you know that we generally work with the spring crops. We don't work so much with winter crops because of the quality.
Well, that's important
spring crops
because
is so much better. Yeah,
a lot of mills here in America work with winter
but
wheat.
you know what really makes the difference? If you seed during the springtime and it's still cold, or is already like a spring temperature, makes a big difference in the harvest time and as well in the development characteristics of every single plant. So I'm not a biologist, of course. I'm a miller, but I know that depending on the climatic condition, but as well on the minerals type and quantity contained into every single soil, we may have different characteristics in the wheat. Not every wheat grows everywhere. So wheat plant is a super surviving plant. We may have wheat on the sea level as well up in the mountain. Every climatic
and all these things are
condition
factors.
and ambient. But according to this, we have different starch and protein development inside each kernel.
So if someone were to say to you, your wheat, when I taste your wheat, your flour, I know that's from Italy or it's Mediterranean flour. What are the flavor characteristics that you notice that differentiate Mediterranean and Italian wheat from other regional wheats, whether it's American or Or because we mostly deal with American flour here.
Okay, just consider every wheat varieties we have so many components of biological and chemical origin. Of course, we are in the complete natureness and genuineness of a raw material that comes from the field. Okay, so 100% nature. But let's say these strings of components may give a different taste when we add water. And of course, we start leavening, so we have our dough to become more acid during this time. And so these tastes, flavors, aromas comes out differently according to the region. But what I could say that taste of our flour is given by 3 important bullet points. First one, the raw material selection. We already went on this passage, and this is fundamental. The second one is 100% natural, because we don't add anything to our flour except of 100% wheat. So
no barley malt.
We don't know how to do differently. That's our only secret. And the third one is the method of milling. As you know that it's very close to prepare such a tomato sauce, like a ragu of the nonna, you know?
Yeah, right.
You know, you have a cooking time, you have to be aggressive, and then of course tomatoes comes out as a best taste ever, you know?
Right.
It doesn't get acid,
Yeah.
Because you were not very aggressive on the raw material. So the way we mill is pretty the same, because we don't, crash the kernel with a certain strength, but we go very gradually. We call it the soft and a sweet milling process.
A gentle process.
We roll every single kernel very gradually, step by step, taking out the flour at ambient temperature, no damage. So from the field to the bag, we have a ratio quality that I would say is 1-to-1, and it's already a great thing, you know. It's a good optimization of the nature.
When you have to, in order to get a white flour, you have to sift out the bran and the germ.
Yeah.
Do you use those byproducts in other flour blends or for other products?
Okay, this takes to the concept of which flour typology I'm using, like 000, type 1, 2, whole wheat flour, okay? And this nomenclature, this classification is different country by country.
That's right. Yeah.
But in Italy, it got famous around the world because we have very old tradition about milling. So we may be proud of this.
You've been doing it longer than we have.
When we process the wheat and mill down each kernel, we have a consecution of 2 steps in a chain of processing. The main one is rolling, so milling, so reducing the kernel by mechanically crushing it. Second one is sifting, okay? So one single step of rolling and sifting, as it was a stone mill, doesn't give the entire extraction in terms of quality. So we need to do it consequently in so many steps that gradually take to the final result, so the complete flour extraction from each kernel. And in our mill is given from more than 30 steps. Because the higher the number of rolling and sifting passages we have into the process, the lower the pressure for each single passage. So this takes to no aggression. Okay?
So
very
you have to be very
patient.
Okay. You have to be willing to take
Yeah, exactly. And this takes also to another advantage and result. By doing this gradually, we are very good, very maniacal in separating the husk of the kernel from the inner core, in which we have starch, granules, and gluten proteins.
Right.
And this takes to a very white flour, naturally obtained by this mechanical separation. So again, no chemical ever. And the 00, so doesn't contain any particles in it.
So bringing it back to that earlier question about the difference between a 00 and a 0.
00 is a pure flour, and is mostly applied for long leavening processes, for high performance products in terms of baking, for higher taste. Because when the flour is pure, gluten network will act without any trouble, you know. It will give best of its performance in terms of wheat quality, in terms of wheat taste, and etc. So it will take to the best result ever. But of course, we have also other flours that contains fibers in it, like the whole wheat flour, tipo uno flour, and they generally are applied for baking product in which I want to give simply a more rustic aroma, rustic taste called fibers, generally develop, leaven, and bake differently from 00 flour. But I would say 00 flour is perfect for dough and baking performances. All the other flours that are actually darker can be applied if you want difference in taste.
A little more earthy, maybe. You had talked about the difference between 0 and 00 in application, but is it essentially the same blend of wheats that you're putting together, just how you're handling them at the mill?
Every flour we produce, every bag, every color, let's say, because we recognize as a flour of thousands colors also, it has a different blend behind.
Yeah.
So every flour is different from another in wheat selection, wheat processing, etc.
Okay.
But the difference between 00 and 0, it's very tiny.
So let's say somebody has a bag of 0 flour, but they want to make pizza from it. They can still make pizza from it.
It's possible. I mean, we have flours recommended for pizza like Nuvola, like Aria, like Nuvola Super. They're 0 because the wheat selection behind as a hash content that takes to 0 after the process.
Well, I was going to lead to that because the Nuvola, how do you say it?
Nuvola.
The Nuvola.
Yeah, literally the cloud in English.
It means what?
Literally, in English, the translation is cloud.
Cloud.
Because the dough comes to be as a cloud, very light.
Because it's light.
Yeah, cloud.
A cloud like...
Nuvola, like cloud in the sky.
The cloud, that's what I thought you said. So I want to get clear. So I remember a few years ago, you brought over a number of talented pizza chefs from the United States to work with your team to help to develop a, quote, I think that one come out, we call it Americana for a while. There was American-style pizza dough that would be more what the American palate was used to, as opposed to the pizza napolitana. Is that how you kind of create these blends? You work with, with local chefs, with American chefs to create these blends? What was the thinking behind it? Okay, we're going to throw it, back to Mauro then again. And Antimo keeps saying Mauro knows more about this, but you but you had to be the visionary to say it's time to move into this sector.
What's up? To be honest, Peter, sometimes a lot of American pizza maker, they try to use the blue pizzeria, the flour we study for the traditional Neapolitan pizza in the American oven, and we understand it doesn't work. Because we always say that does not exist the best flour possible, but exists the right flour for a specific recipe.
Right.
So we invite in Italy, John Arena, Tony Gimignani, one of the most famous pizza makers in Naples, and we study for 10 days inside the mill where we have a oven and pizzeria and where we do a lot of dough. We try to understand deeply the recipe of the American pizzeria, and we find out, a blend of wheat that can really give an answer to this need, because the oven is lower, it's 250 degrees, it's not 400 like us Celsius, and so you need a different quality of the wheat for the color of the crust, for example, and you need a different gluten net because it's totally different. The American pizza is huge if you compare with the Neapolitan pizza. So we study specific gluten quality, specific quality of the wheat for the color in the oven, and we set really flour that allows the American artisan to do something really special. You can combine, the Italian quality with the handcraft of the American pizza maker. It's two wonderful things that combined to make a wonderful result.
Well, that's got to be, an interesting and fun challenge to recognize there's a new opportunity for our company to get into this sector of the marketplace, but we have to then take our ingenuity, our know-how, and use our flour to produce that. We'll take and then you bring these, let's say, American, bakers over to give advice, flavor-wise, texture-wise. But then, how did you end up putting that together, Mauro? What was the breakthrough that allowed you to replicate something that would work in American-style pizzas with your flour?
That's a good question. Since ever, we have worked and we did relate so much with the territory, okay? And this was in Napoli, okay? So working back to back with the Neapolitan pizzaiolo, we came out with the specific flour for pizza napoletana. The same process was applied for typical panettone, typical bread. So working with them, working with the market, being in the market with a correct interaction, you can do your job properly. Okay. So we did the same with American pizza. You know, with a very high modesty, we did recognize that was necessary to come out with the new design of flour for this pizza, and of course we did select and recognize a specific segment of Americana pizza that is actually the artisanal one, not all the categories. Okay, the one made from the artisans in its place with natural ingredients, bringing back the Italian to USA as a tradition once. So we brought to Italy, or we better say we guessed it. We made an invitation to very important names like Tony Gimignani, John Arena, Michele D'Amelio, and so many others, Giulio Andriani. They came to Napoli in our mill, where we have a lab dedicated to dough experiments and dough baking in general, scientists. They came over for 1 week, explaining us the way they were working by making traditional artisanal American pizza. We combined and discussed, made a lot of brainstorming about different methods, possibility of optimization in this style. And after a certain period of studying and testing, by sending different samples over the ocean to the United States, we came out with this flour. And I would say the main difference stays in this cooperation we had with them. Yeah. So the product comes from the reality, comes from the market necessity, from specific people necessities. Yeah. By keeping our milling and traditional family concepts like still just wheat, complete naturalness, natural taste and flavors, and slow milling method applied to American need.
So you're stay true to your core values, and at the same time you expand the realm of possibility by collaborating with talented people, bringing your skills together with other talents. And I think that maybe answers the question, the earlier question that we had of how you managed to be so successful in expanding your brand is, I think, this commitment to investing in the process of meeting the needs of the clients, but staying true to your values. And not every company does that. So some companies, to meet the needs of the clients, but they have to compromise on some of their methods or techniques in order to do that. But it sounds like, from what I'm hearing you say, that you're staying true to those values, especially no additives and the slow milling processes that you're using. So I want to thank you for that, and I think that's maybe a good place to kind of end today, because it answers the big question: is how do you do it? What's the secret? The secret of your success, the secret sauce, is not the flour. The flour is the secret sauce, but how you produce it and grow a company, and grow even a third, fourth generation company still has to grow, and you really address that, I think, especially with the openness.
We want to grow, but we want to never change. So the big job we do, we keep our feeling with the market, the feeling with the production, and would be really strict connected.
You said it better than I did. Yes, much better. Thank you. Well, Antimo Caputo, Mauro Caputo, thank you so much for joining us on Pizza Quest today.
Thank you to you, Peter.
Thank you for this interview.
And,
thank you.
Congratulations on all your growth and success. And I look forward. One of these days, I want to come over and get that tour, the mill tour, and that all my friends have been on. And I know that I've been invited to join, but I wasn't able to go.
It's a pleasure to guest you.
But I can't wait for that opportunity.
We wait for you in Napoli. Okay.
Looking forward to it. Well, thank you again. We will see you. Good luck with the rest of the Pizza Expo today. I know that everybody's here putting deals together and finding new vendors and new people to supply with your product. So good luck. There's going to be demonstrations going on over at the Caputo booth.
Thank you.
We'll catch up with all of you again on the next episode of Pizza Quest. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Antimo and Mauro.
Grazie mille.
Pizza Quest is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.